This is the Alter Slobadka number 11. I have a very interesting point, a little bit of a unique point to share today. There's really two levels to it. On one level, maybe the part which is most easily accessible to us is the fact that the Alter was very, very focused on what he was doing. Sometimes, whether it's in our parenting or our working or in working in Talmudim, we lose focus. What am I really trying to accomplish? Who am I really trying to work with? Is it the top half of the class, bottom of the class, middle of the class, everybody, nobody, etc.? The Alter was laser focused on who he was working with. And specifically, that's a davar I'd say, Choshav l'chol nefesh, specifically a more unique message, but part of the Alter's Masorah, definitely something that we have to say over and trying to be accurate to his, to who he was that he gave a tremendous and unusual amount of time specifically to the more talented, right? It's not necessarily a popular thought today, but this is the truth of the Alter Slobadka. Tzumas Lev Miyuchedet. This is how, again, it says in Amoris Egdom Kuf Lamed Vav. He gave a specific amount of attention to Bali Kishronos Mu'ulim, those who are very, very talented. When he found a Talmud that was very special in his talents, and he saw that he could raise him to be something special, he would not leave him alone, and he would give himself totally over him. Right, and even sometimes, listen to this. Even sometimes, if that boy was a little less in midos, or he wasn't his ashkafas were a little less strong, he had hopes that he could, through his kishronos, through his abilities, he would bring him up to godless. During all the different tekufos of the yeshiva, he would have around him young iluyim that he would give them special time, and he would spend most of his time with them. And he used to say that these ones were the Matarat Yeshiva, and for them the whole yeshiva was, and all of its work was special. And it came a time when there was this matzav in the yeshiva was a little bit weak. I don't know what exactly the weakness was, and people told the Alter about it, and the Alter said, "Is this bacher there? If this bacher is there, it's all worth it." In fact, I don't remember if I saw written or if I heard from him himself, but Rav Olbas commented that the 400 Talmidim of Slobadka are all could die for one Rav Aaron Cutler. And I've heard two nuschos in about this point. One was that he gave special attention to Iluyim, like we just wrote, geniuses. And another one was to Bali Musar, to those who were specifically into Musar in a big way. Not all Talmidim in yeshiva, even in the Musar yeshivas, were into Musar, but there were those who were definitely into Musar. So there was the Iluyim and the Bali Musar, and if you were both, then the Alter would make you a roommate, right? That was a special kirva that he had. I heard from Rav Aaron Lopiansky a slightly different nusach, but the points are the same, but slightly different flavor. He said that the Alter would spend a special amount of time with Iluyim and Bali Chen. Bali Chen means people with a lot of charm, a lot of, not charm in the negative sense, but people who have a koach hashpah. People look at them, they like them, charisma, if you will, something along there. Because those are the ones who could have the most hashpah. And it's an interesting point. I found in Rabbi Yisrael Salanter's writing in a sefer called Torah's Rabbi Yisrael a similar riot to this type of idea. What was behind it? Right, by a lesser person, you'd say, well, the Alter liked, brilliant people, so you could show them off, say, this is my yeshiva, here we have the biggest geniuses. I think even without being at number 11 of the Alter, we could appreciate that the Alter was very, very far from such shallow, chitzoniistic, kavadik things. Why? So I always understood it, my understanding of this, but I'm offering this to the tzibur, you can think about it yourselves, was based on this comment that I found by Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. The Mishnah lists in Avos 4 midas of Talmidim, and it talks about the one who is mahir litfos, he catches on quickly, and he's kasha labeid, and it's hard for him to lose things. It means he gets things quickly and he forgets them slow. And it lists 4 different extrapolations of that. And the Rav, the Bar Tanura, asks, what's the nafkamina? Why is Mishnah telling us this? So he says, because it's the one, if you only have a certain amount of money, you give money to that one. Now, Rabbi Yisrael explains, as we always know, that everything is according to the effort, right? Who's worth more? Now let's be careful in how we say this, but who's worth more in being Shamayim? Who gets more sachar? Someone who works hard for 3 hours and barely gets the pshat, or a brilliant young kid who gets it in 20 minutes? For sure, the one who worked 3 hours, Ba'amal, is worth more in Beinei Shamayim. But, if I understood Rabbi Yisrael correctly, But there's a point about who can be mashpia down here in this world, and often it's the more talented people. That's what we see. They have Hashem gave them a tachlis also, and they can be mashpia sometimes in a different way. And you see that in this Mishnah, because in reward there's the marechet of reward of sachar, etc. Shamayim, and there's also marechet a system of down here, of worrying about things down here. That's my understanding. The Alter wasn't that he liked smart people better. He wasn't an elitist. I think that would be the wrong way to say it, a terrible way to say it, not an accurate way to say it. It was that he saw that these are the people that were mashpia. One Rav Aaron Kotler could turn over all of America, which he did. And the Rav Futner could make Yeshiva like Chaim Berlin, which he did. And Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky could be the Rav, which he did. And therefore he gave them an unusual amount of attention and efforts. So obviously it's not a point to abuse, and I'm not saying what the nafkamina of this is for us, but again, it's definitely a true part of his Masorah, and definitely at least we have to learn to not to focus and think of what we're doing. Maybe for some of us we have to work with kids who have less abilities, and that's really what we should do, and focus our whole focus on that, and leave over the brighter ones, because that's not our koach, or that's not our nachal, etc. But for sure we should be thinking about what we're doing, and thinking about how we're focusing on time, where we're focusing on our time, not just make our time hefker. The Alter's time wasn't hefker, and our time is not hefker. Another point just to end with is that part of it is understanding that we care about Klal Yisrael. Sometimes, this when we're just like worried about everything and give money to everything, it shows that we're not really focused and really thinking what Klal Yisrael, what the Jewish people really needs, right? And sometimes we become so underdog defendant that we don't realize that Klal Yisrael does need big Talmidei Chachamim, and we need people who are really going to hit the highest madregas and the highest milas. Now, a person could be less talented and do that also. It's true, but then he's going to need some other talent, maybe tremendous asmad, etc. But that a shlemistic Jew isn't just focused on the Iluyim, and isn't just focused on the underdogs, but he has a picture of Klal Yisrael needs a lot of things. And that we appreciate that also. We appreciate that it runs against us a little bit. Maybe sometimes our Western tendency, but we've sometimes overdone our anti-elitism to get to the point where we don't care. Kids who are off the derech need hadracha, and kids who are struggling need hadracha, and the kids who are on the derech and are doing really well, they need a tremendous amount of attention, and those who are special and can be megadol them also. And a good parent and a good machanach and a good rav cares about all of them and tries to do what he can.